All right, so today we're diving into the Lost Superfoods. And, it's not just a cookbook.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a time machine taking us back to see what people ate to not just survive,
Right.
but to actually thrive
Yeah,
in really tough situations.
absolutely. And it's amazing what we can learn from the past,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to food. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
this book, it really highlights how ingenious different cultures were,
Mm.
with their approach to nutrition and preserving food.
Totally. And it's not just about getting by.
Yeah.
It's about really flourishing.
Yeah.
So what exactly is the Lost Superfoods all about?
So this book dives into over 126 foods and techniques
Oh.
that various cultures use throughout history, and it's co-written by a whole team of experts.
Cool.
You've got Art Rude, the survivalist,
Okay.
Lex Rooker, the nutrition specialist,
Mm-hmm.
Claude Davis, who's the preparedness guru,
Right?
and Fred Dwight, the food historian.
Wow. So they're bringing a lot of different perspectives.
Each one brings a unique perspective.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But what makes these superfoods lost?
Well, it's not like they vanished completely.
Right.
It's more that we've kind of forgotten about a lot of these ingredients and techniques.
Interesting.
They've been overshadowed by all the modern food trends.
That makes sense. So it's like rediscovering what our ancestors knew.
Exactly.
The kind of historical context does the book give us?
Oh, it highlights some incredible survival stories
Oh, wow.
where these lost superfoods really played a key role. Like, for example, during the Leningrad siege.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, in World War II.
Yes, in World War II.
That was brutal.
People were facing unimaginable food shortages. And the book reveals how some people actually managed to stay healthy
Really?
because they had stockpiles of certain foods.
That's a powerful example of how resilient people can be.
It is.
Are there any other stories that show how important these foods were?
Absolutely. There's a story about a Swedish village that was buried by avalanches
Oh, wow.
back in 1869, and they survived
Wow.
because they relied on this one specific, long-lasting food.
Gosh, these stories really make you appreciate how clever people were back then.
It's amazing.
So let's get to the good stuff. The
Oh.
superfoods themselves.
Okay.
What are some of the most interesting ones?
Well, one that really stands out is called sukatsugen,
Okay. I have no idea what that is.
which translates to ninja energy balls.
Ninja energy balls.
I know.
That's amazing.
So picture this, a blend of licorice root, kudzu, starch, dried plums, and mint leaves.
Wow. So it sounds kind of like a modern energy bar, but for ninjas?
It's like an ancient version of an energy bar.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What were they used for?
Well, they believed that it gave them sustained energy and mental clarity.
Oh, wow.
So it was basically fuel for all those stealthy missions that ninjas are known for.
Makes sense. Okay, that's cool. But what about something a bit more substantial?
All right, for sheer resilience, you've got Viking survival bread.
Okay, I've heard of that.
This barley and pilaf could last for 3 years.
3 years.
I know, it's incredible.
How is that even possible?
It's all about the ingredients and how it's baked.
Yeah.
So the barley provides those long-lasting carbohydrates.
Right.
The peas add protein.
Okay.
And then they bake it at a low temperature for a really long time, which removes almost all the moisture, making it incredibly shelf-stable.
Wow. That really gives you a sense of how Vikings prepared for those long journeys.
Yeah, they were thinking ahead.
Yeah. Are there any other examples that show off that kind of ancient food technology?
Absolutely. Think about pemmican.
Pemmican.
It's a Native American creation.
Right.
Made from dried meat fat and sometimes berries.
Okay.
It's incredibly calorie-dense and can last for years,
Really?
making it perfect for travel in harsh conditions.
That's amazing. So we've got ninja energy balls,
Ooh.
Viking bread, what else?
Oh, Genghis Khan's armies.
Oh, wow.
They conquered huge territories on a diet that included a rule.
Our rule.
It's a dried dairy product that's still popular in Mongolia today.
Interesting.
It's packed with protein and calcium.
Wow.
It really showcases how ingenious nomadic cultures were.
So we've got ninja energy balls, Viking bread, Genghis Khan's dairy snacks.
That's right.
This is like a global culinary adventure.
It is.
But how does all this connect to our modern lives?
Well, that's the beauty of this book.
Yeah.
It bridges that gap between the wisdom of the past and what we're worried about today. Like, a lot of people are anxious about food security.
Yeah, especially with like pandemics and supply chain problems.
Exactly. And the Lost Superfoods, it offers practical solutions that are based on what worked in the past.
It's like looking back in time to figure out how to navigate the future.
It is.
But it's not just about survival, is it?
No.
What about the health benefits of these superfoods?
The book dives into that too.
Okay.
It provides detailed nutritional analyses for every single superfood.
Wow.
It covers everything from macronutrients and micronutrients to calorie content and all the potential health benefits.
So these lost superfoods could actually improve our diets today.
Absolutely.
Oh.
For example, the book explains how properly preserved foods can be just as nutritious as fresh options, sometimes even more so.
More so.
Yeah, because of something called increased nutrient bioavailability.
Huh, interesting.
Take fermentation, for instance.
Okay.
It not only preserves the food,
Right.
it enhances the flavor
Yeah.
and the nutritional value
Wow.
because of the beneficial bacteria.
Fermented foods are so popular right now.
They are.
It's fascinating how these ancient techniques are becoming trendy again.
It's a full circle moment.
Yeah. So it's not just about having a bunker full of food.
Right.
It's about adding these nutrient-rich foods to our everyday meals.
Exactly. And the book goes beyond just giving you data.
Oh, okay.
It offers creative recipe ideas
Oh, cool.
to help you integrate these ingredients into modern diets.
So we're not just talking about bland survival ration.
No, not at all.
It's about making our meals more flavorful and nutritious.
Precisely. The Lost Superfoods.
Mm.
It encourages a shift in how we think about food.
Mm-hmm.
It's about appreciating those traditional food practices and bringing those time-tested ingredients into our modern diets.
I'm already feeling inspired to try some of these lost superfoods.
Me too.
But before we do, I'm curious about something. We talked about Ninja energy balls and Viking bread.
Mm-hmm.
What about something from the Cold War era?
You're thinking about the Doomsday
A
Ration?
doomsday ration.
Yeah, it was created to be cheap, nutritious, and last for decades.
Wow.
And the key ingredient,
Okay.
bulgur,
Wait, boulder. Isn't that a pretty common grain?
it is, and that's what's so fascinating about it.
Really?
This ancient grain, they found it edible in Egyptian pyramids after thousands of years.
Wow.
And it was also key to survival during the Cold War.
That's incredible. It shows you how timeless some of these foods are.
It does.
I'm definitely going to have to try this doomsday ration.
You should. And what's even more remarkable
Yeah.
is that this ration that was meant to keep people alive on a tight budget
Yeah.
was actually pretty tasty.
No way.
Some people compare it to matzo.
Wow. That's a testament to how resourceful people were back then.
It is.
Okay, so bulgur check. What other culinary treasures are hidden in this book?
How about frumenti?
Frumenti.
It's this hearty wheat-based porridge
Okay.
that sustained people through some really challenging times, even the Black Death.
The black S.
Yeah, it was a staple in medieval Europe.
Wow.
It shows you the enduring power of simple, nourishing foods.
Frumenti, it sounds like something straight out of a history book.
It does.
What about something a little more adventurous?
Okay, how about portable soup?
Portable soup.
It's basically a dehydrated soup.
Okay.
Think of it as a 19th century bouillon cube.
Oh, that's cool.
It was crucial for expeditions like Lewis and Clark's journey across the American West.
I could just picture those explorers sipping their soup while discovering new lands.
I know, it's pretty cool.
Speaking of exploration, did Vikings have any other superfoods besides that amazing bread?
They did. They were masters of preserving fish.
Oh, right.
And this technique allowed them to keep their catches edible for up to 3 years.
Really?
And guess what? It's still used in Norway today.
Wow. Talk about sustainable seafood.
I know.
These lost superfoods are really opening my eyes to how ingenious people were in the past.
They really are.
Okay, I have to ask. Are there any superfoods in this book that sound genuinely delicious?
Oh, absolutely.
Because so far we've got nutritious
Yeah.
and long-lasting down pat.
There's a recipe for Mountaineer's tuna stroganoff
Okay.
that's described as incredibly satisfying.
Huh?
And don't underestimate a well-preserved cheese.
Oh, yeah.
The book details a 14th century Dutch technique for storing cheese at room temperature for over 2 years.
Cheese that lasts for 2 years without refrigeration.
I know, it's amazing.
Sign me up. This is making me rethink my whole approach to food.
It is.
It's not just about what's trendy.
Right.
It's about understanding how valuable these time-tested techniques are.
Exactly. And the Lost Superfoods, it goes beyond recipes.
Oh, really?
It delves into foraging,
Oh.
gardening, and other self-sufficiency skills.
Wow.
It's about empowering people to take control of where their food comes from,
That's amazing.
even in their own backyard.
So it's more than just the food itself.
It is.
It's a whole way of life.
It is a way of life.
Speaking of the authors, they seem like a fascinating group.
They are.
Yeah.
You've got Art Rude, the survivalist, who advocates for living off-grid.
Okay.
And then you've got Claude Davis, who brings that preparedness perspective,
Mm.
drawing on all those historical preservation methods.
And then Lex Rooker adds that nutritional expertise,
Yes.
helping us understand the health benefits.
Exactly.
And of course, we can't forget Fred White, the historian,
Right.
who brings it all to life with that fascinating cultural context.
He does.
It's a really holistic approach to food security.
It is.
It's amazing how this book connects history, nutrition, and practical skills.
It's pretty incredible.
It's not just a cookbook.
No.
It's a guide to living a more resilient life.
It is. And it's all presented in a very engaging way,
Yeah.
with step-by-step instructions, full-color pictures,
Nice.
and even personal anecdotes from the authors.
I love that.
It feels less like a textbook and more like you're having a conversation
Yeah,
with a wise friend who's sharing their secrets.
I love that. All right, before we wrap up part 1 of our deep dive,
Okay.
what has stood out to you so far?
For me, it's the connection between these ancient foods
Mm-hmm.
and modern sustainability.
Right.
It's really inspiring to see how we can use the wisdom of the past
Yeah,
to tackle some of the biggest challenges we face today.
I'm with you on that. I'm definitely intrigued by incorporating some of these superfoods into my everyday meals.
Yeah.
Who knew Ninja energy balls could be so relevant in the 21st century?
It's all about rediscovering the power of those simple, nutrient-rich ingredients
Right.
that have stood the test of time.
That's what the Lost Superfoods is all about.
It is. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Lost Superfoods. You know, it's been really fascinating to uncover these culinary gems from the past.
Yeah, it really has. One thing that I'm finding really interesting is how the book emphasizes not just surviving,
Right.
but thriving, even when times are tough.
It's about more than just filling your belly.
Yeah.
It's about giving your body and mind the nutrients they need to be healthy and strong for the long haul.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of nourishment,
Yes.
there's a section in the book that talks about hardtack.
Okay.
And I got to be honest, it doesn't sound that appealing.
Hardtack. I know.
It's known for being like rock hard,
It is. It definitely has that reputation.
like break your teeth hard.
Pretty much. It's a simple biscuit made from flour, water, and sometimes salt.
Okay.
But that simplicity is actually its strength.
Right.
Hardtack was a staple for sailors and soldiers for centuries.
Oh, really?
Because it was so durable. I mean, it could last for years without spoiling.
Wow. Okay, so maybe not the most gourmet food.
Definitely practical.
Definitely practical.
Yeah.
But people got creative.
Oh, really?
They'd soak it in water, coffee, or even soup to soften it up.
Okay, that makes sense. Some people even crumbled it up and used it as a thickener for stews.
Wow, you really do learn to adapt when it comes to survival.
You do.
So we've got long-lasting bread, indestructible biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
What about something a little more substantial?
Well, for a taste of wartime rations, there's bully beef.
Bully beef.
Yeah, it's this canned cooked beef product
Okay.
that was widely used during World War I.
Oh, wow.
It was a non-perishable protein source for the soldiers.
Okay, so canned meat, not exactly a 5-star meal.
No, not exactly.
But I'm sensing a theme here.
What's that?
Functionality over fancy.
Exactly. In times of scarcity, it's all about getting those essential nutrients.
Right.
And bully beef, while not gourmet, did provide that much-needed protein.
Right. Speaking of protein, you mentioned something called poor man's steak earlier.
Yes.
What exactly is that, and how did it get its name?
So it's this hearty, protein-rich dish
Folks.
from the Amish community,
Right.
who are known for their self-sufficient lifestyle. It's made with simple, affordable ingredients, hence the name poor man's steak.
Makes sense.
And the book explains how the Amish would preserve this steak for years in their pantries.
It's amazing how this book showcases how resourceful different cultures can be.
It is.
It reminds us that we can find inspiration for sustainable living from all over the world.
Absolutely.
What other interesting preservation techniques does the book explore?
Well, one that really stands out is fermentation.
Fermentation.
It's a technique that's been used for thousands of years,
Right.
and it's making a real comeback these days.
Yeah, I'm thinking kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt,
Yeah.
all those tangy, gut-healthy goodies.
Exactly. What's the book's take on fermentation?
Yeah.
It goes deep.
Yeah.
It explains the science behind it, the
Mhm.
health benefits.
Okay.
And it gives you instructions on how to ferment everything from veggies to dairy.
Wow, that's cool.
There's even a recipe for a fermented soup from turkey
Oh, wow.
that supposedly helped people survive a 3-year crop failure.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really shows how fermentation can turn simple ingredients into these nutrient-rich, long-lasting foods.
It can.
And it's not just about preserving them.
Right.
It's about making them taste better
Yeah.
and boosting their nutritional value.
Exactly. Those good bacteria are amazing for your gut health.
Yeah, they are. So we've talked about foods that fueled explorers, warriors, and everyday people throughout history. But does the Lost Superfoods acknowledge that not everyone have access to the same resources or ingredients?
It does. The authors are aware of that.
Okay.
And they offer guidance on how to source those rare ingredients or find substitutes.
Right.
They even have a whole chapter dedicated to foraging for edible plants,
Oh, cool.
with safety tips and advice on how to identify different species.
That's awesome. It's all about making this knowledge accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
no matter their situation.
Exactly. The Lost Superfoods empowers readers to become more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Whether that means growing their own food foraging or mastering these age-old preservation techniques.
It's about taking back that connection to our food
Right.
and rediscovering that resilience that our ancestors had.
Exactly.
You know, we've talked about the practical and nutritional aspects of these lost superfoods.
Yeah.
But does the book ever address the whole doomsday prepper mentality?
That's a great question, and it's important to address.
Right.
While the book does emphasize preparedness and self-sufficiency, it's not about fear-mongering or stockpiling for the apocalypse.
Right. It's more about taking practical steps to make sure you have food security,
Exactly.
no matter what challenges life throws your way.
It's about empowering people to feel confident and prepared, whether they're facing a natural disaster, an economic downturn, or just wanting to rely less on those fragile supply chains.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your own food sources and building a more resilient lifestyle.
Exactly.
I appreciate that the book takes that balanced approach.
Me too.
It's not about living in fear. It's about being proactive and resourceful.
Absolutely. One thing that's really refreshing about the Lost Superfoods is that it debunks a lot of myths around superfoods.
Okay, like what?
Well, it emphasizes that these foods aren't magical cure-alls.
Right.
They're nutrient-rich ingredients that can make a balanced diet even better.
So it's about moving away from fad diets
Yeah,
and embracing a more holistic approach to nutrition.
exactly. And the book stresses that superfoods don't have to be exotic or expensive.
That's a good point.
A lot of these lost superfoods are common ingredients that we often overlook,
Right.
but they've been nourishing people for centuries.
Like bulgur, for example.
Exact.
Who knew that an ancient grain could be so versatile and shelf-stable?
It's all about rediscovering the value of these humble ingredients and making them a part of our modern diets.
I love that. Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
what's resonating with you the most about the Lost Superfoods?
For me, it's how the book connects the past and the present. It's fascinating to see how ancient food wisdom can be so relevant to our worries today about health sustainability and resilience.
I'm with you there. I'm personally inspired by the idea of rediscovering these lost superfoods
Yeah.
and making them a part of my life.
It's like unlocking a culinary treasure chest
Totally.
filled with history, nutrition, and practical skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
where we'll go even deeper into the book's practical tips
Right.
and explore how you can start incorporating these superfoods into your everyday life. Welcome back. We've been on this amazing culinary journey with the Lost Superfoods, and one thing that really stands out to me is how the book doesn't just tell you things.
Right.
It wants you to actually do something with that knowledge.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's not just a book to read and then put on the shelf.
Right.
It's about putting what you learn into action, whether it's trying a new recipe, starting a garden, or even learning how to preserve food.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, literally.
But let's be real. Not everyone's going to become a survival expert overnight.
Right.
So what about those of us who are just starting out with all this?
Well, the book is really great for beginners.
Okay.
It starts with the basics, explaining things like dehydration, fermentation, canning, and pickling
Okay.
in a way that's really clear and easy to understand.
So even if you've never canned a tomato before, you can still learn how to stock your pantry with delicious and long-lasting foods.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about people who live in apartments or cities
Yeah.
where space is limited?
The authors have got you covered.
Okay.
They offer some really creative solutions for urban gardening,
Cool.
like vertical gardens, container gardening, even indoor sprouting.
Oh, wow.
They also talk about connecting with farmers markets and community gardens.
So it's about finding ways to be self-sufficient, even in an urban environment.
Exactly.
I love how the book encourages that kind of creative problem solving when it comes to food.
It's really important.
What about the cost? Can you actually afford to incorporate these lost superfoods into your life?
You know, a lot of the ingredients are actually really budget-friendly,
Really?
especially compared to some of those trendy processed superfoods you see in stores.
Oh, yeah?
Think about things like beans, lentils, oats, barley.
Right.
These are staples that have been feeding people for generations.
Yeah.
And they're still super affordable today.
It's a good reminder that eating healthy doesn't have to be expensive.
It doesn't.
And actually, maybe by embracing these traditional foods and methods, we might even save money in the long run.
You might.
Okay, last question on this. Are these foods actually as nutritious as the book says they are?
The book goes into a lot of detail about the nutritional value of each superfood.
Okay.
It breaks down the macronutrients, the micronutrients, and all the potential health benefits.
Wow.
And it's not just based on stories.
Okay.
The authors back up their claims with historical records and scientific research.
So it's not just about surviving. It's about eating foods that can make us healthier overall.
Exactly. It's about thriving.
Okay, I gotta ask, what's the weirdest or most unexpected superfood you've come across in the Lost Superfoods?
You know, for me, it's pine bark flour.
Pine bark flour.
Do you know that you can actually eat the inner bark of pine trees?
No, I did not know that.
It's been a food source for indigenous cultures for centuries.
Wow.
And the book explains how to harvest and process it safely.
Pine bark flour. That's not something I ever imagined having in my pantry.
It's definitely unique.
But I guess it's all about expanding our culinary horizons, right?
It is. What about you? Any superfoods that surprised you?
You know, I was fascinated by the glass jar method for preserving biltong.
Biltong.
It's a type of dried meat, kind of like jerky,
Right?
that's popular in South Africa.
Okay.
And the book explains how this method removes even more moisture over time,
Really?
which makes it last even longer
Wow.
while still keeping all the flavor and nutrients.
That's pretty cool.
I'm definitely going to have to try that.
You should.
This book has really made me think differently about food.
It has.
It's not just about what's easy or what's trending.
Right.
It's about connecting with the wisdom of our ancestors and embracing a way of eating that's more resilient and sustainable.
It's also about remembering that food is more than just fuel.
Yeah.
It's a connection to our history, our culture, and our own inner resourcefulness.
I love that.
The Lost Superfoods shows us how to take control of our food sources
Yeah.
and create a more secure and nourishing future for ourselves and our communities.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the Lost Superfoods, what's the one thing you hope our listeners will take away from this?
You know, I hope they feel inspired to take action.
Yeah.
Whether it's trying a new superfood each week, experimenting with a preservation technique, or even just starting a conversation about food resilience with their friends and family.
Yeah.
Every little step counts.
Absolutely. And I hope they remember that these lost superfoods aren't just things from the past.
Right.
They're valuable resources for us today and for the future.
Exactly.
By rediscovering these ancient ways of eating, we can nourish ourselves, strengthen our communities, and create a more sustainable world.
Well said. So go out there and explore these culinary treasures.
Yes.
You might be surprised by what you discover about history, about nutrition, and about your own resilience.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, the journey to a more food-secure future starts with a single bite.
That's a great way to put it.
Until next time, happy eating.